So if you identify as Indigenous, Afro-Indigenous, a Black Indian, White Indian, or American Indian, if you want to, please stand up, because we are going to acknowledge you. Mikudamin chin kiohe, nahom pipi se, mima crystal, mima yesa, mima okanichi saponi, mima mebin watiwa. So I just gave you a traditional Tutelo greeting, and that is the language that I'm relearning. That is the language of my ancestors. That was taken from us over 300 years ago. So as this climate change is happening, and technically we're in spring, but I think this weekend we're going to have some cold weather. So as our waterways run throughout Turtle Island, I want you to think about how we think about land, how we are a part of nature. And when you wake up every morning, please think about that. When you're doing your work, think about how we relate to each other, but how we relate to nature. We are standing on Catawba, Sugaree, Cheraw lands, and the Urban Indian Center of Metrolina Native American Caucus. So let us honor the four directions: the land, our people, the rivers, Grandmother Earth, and Creator of it all. While I do not approve of the Native Land CA map, this map here is one that has been used throughout North Carolina. It doesn't replace the due diligence that each of you need to do and understand whose land you reside on. So as we acknowledge at this moment and state our values on these lands that have been stewarded through many centuries by the ancestors and descendants of tribal nations who have been here since time immemorial, we didn't have boundary lines. North Carolina has always been home to American Indian tribes, with the Secotan and Chowan in the east, the Saponi, Tutelo, Occaneechi, Eno, Shakori, Sara, and Tuscarora in the center, the Cherokee and Catawba dominating the west, and dozens of other ones along the state. And as such, American Indians have had such a great influence throughout North Carolina's history. So as we move forward with the rest of the agenda today, please recognize and acknowledge our 8 state recognized tribes of the Occaneechi Band of the Saponi Nation, Meharan, Wakamasuan, Lumbee, Kohari, Halawa Saponi, Saponi, and the Eastern Band of Cherokee, as well as our relatives, the Tuscarora and Catawba, as the past, the present, and future caretakers of this land. So I want to talk to you about land acknowledgements. They do not exist in a past tense or historical context. Colonialism is an ongoing current process, and the young relative at my table is talking about decolonizing health. That's beautiful. We need to build our mindfulness of our present precipitation. When we talk about land, land is a part of who we are. It is a mixture of our blood, our past, and our current, and our future. We carry our ancestors in us, and each one of you carry your ancestors with you. Indigenous communities have been caretakers of the environment, protecting our lands, respecting wildlife, and utilizing traditional knowledge passed down through generations. And without this acknowledgement or understanding who we are, this tends to lock us into the past without acknowledging that we're still living. Practicing sacred ceremonies, and the contemporary Indigenous people extend their worldviews and livelihood throughout all of segment society today. Each one of you had ancestors who were Indigenous to somewhere across the world. So as we put in the work for us to move beyond this land acknowledgement, it is true that most systemic programs, including academia, vocational, industrial, occupational, emotional, social, spiritual, and cultural development, were created for white men, and then secondly for white women. Like all institutions with this type of legacy, change does not happen overnight. Ultimately, issues stem from the fact that many spaces are still so white and weren't created to be inclusive to people other than white males. These land acknowledgements allow lights of hope to shine into a space that largely upholds institutional racism and sexism. Now, no one is coming to save us. It is all on us, from fire management to forest stewardship, Indigenous, Afro-Indigenous people all across Turtle Island, all over generations, have amassed crucial knowledge about living and caring for ecosystems in a sustainable manner. And it's no wonder many consider land back a keystone of environmental justice. Now, it does go beyond the transfer of deeds, because you have to think holistically, which includes respecting Indigenous rights, preserving our languages and traditions, ensuring food sovereignty, housing, and clean air and water. And above all, it is a rallying cry for dismantling white supremacy and the harms of capitalism. We must continue to be inclusive, especially here on the East Coast, where colonization happened first, and our history has been erased. Now, with the idea of land back, returning land back to Indigenous people has existed in different forms since colonial governments seized it in the first place. Anytime an Indigenous person or nation has pushed back against the oppressive state, they are exercising some form of land back. It is important to understand the long-standing history that has brought you here to reside on the land today, and I want you to seek to understand your place within that history. We pay our respects to millions of Indigenous people on Turtle Island in South America throughout history who have protected our lands, waters, air, and animals. To be sure, there's plenty of necessary and critical dialogue within Indigenous communities about a land acknowledgement and its effectivest tool for cultural and narrative change. Equal reparations or things will not heal generations of trauma caused by colonization, and they are a productive first step and tool for showing respect to land and people, and they help combat erasure. So you are taking your first step at combating erasure. And if you need help understanding Southeast Indigenous history, please reach out to Jason or myself or many other people that are in our tribes that understand that. So Alewa, thank you.